Hello, my little naughties. Welcome back to Goya Tales. I know it's been a long time. No, I think it's more than 3 weeks that I came up with a new story for you all. But today, it's a very exciting story. You know what is it about? It's about puppets. You all love puppets, no? Do you love watching puppet shows? Have you been to one? You know, there will be nice little toy like the puppets, so they will be tied to the strings, and some people they will be standing behind the little stage, and then they will be moving the puppets with their hands and the strings, so the puppets will be moving, and it will be really cute to watch these puppet shows. So today the story is about these puppet shows, and in specific about a few naughty and mischievous puppets. Shall we go to the story? So today we are going to read Revenge of the Puppets, so which is written by Nadine De Souza and illustrated by Ayush Rajwanshi and published by Karadi Tales. So obviously the story is about puppets, right? So what happens in a puppet show? Dhumak dhumak dhum dhum. So nice music was playing, and golden light from glass lanterns, it danced across the wooden stage. So there were beautiful lights, there were beautiful music, and chamaka chum chum. The bells also tinkled playfully. Jumri and Veer, they threw their hands into the air and they twirled around the stage in a mesmerizing dance. So this is Jumri and Veer. So these are the two puppets. So they were dancing beautifully on the stage in the puppet show. And then dum chakadum. What happened? A change of scene. So now Jumri stood aside, and then Kalia entered. Who is Kalia? The villain. So Kalia entered. Veer drew out his sword and he charged. And Kalia's own sword sliced the air menacingly. A thrilling, graceful battle then happened between Kalia and Veer. And finally, Veer emerged victorious. So Veer won the battle. And after that, the audience erupted into applause. So they were all happy. The puppet show came to an end, and the audience, they were so happy and they clapped. Wow, wow, wow. Beautiful show. And at that time, Bhairo and Banu, they bowed from behind the curtain. So who were the people who were performing this puppet show? They were called Bhairo and Banu. So they are a couple, a husband and a wife. So they are the ones who are performing the puppet show. They took a bow from behind the curtains. And in their hands, suspended by strings, were Jumri, Veer and Kalia. So Bhairo pulled the strings and the puppets waved. You know, they used to pull the strings, the puppets will be waving like this. So Bhairo pulled the strings and all the puppets, they waved. Okay, so they also took a bow with the audience. And after that, later that night, Banu, she brought up a subject that had been bothering them for a while. What was it? We need to make new puppets, Bhairo, she said. The ones we have are becoming old and tattered now. What is tattered? Tattered means they don't look new anymore, and they are kind of tearing here and there. So they are not so fresh and they don't look new. So she said that they are becoming very old and they've started to tear. So I think we need to make new puppets now. Bhairo nodded sadly. Yeah, I think so. A decision had to be made. With a heavy heart, he said, new puppets will breathe fresh air into the performances. Yes, because since the audience, they see only the puppets, he thought, New puppets definitely will bring a lot of freshness and some nice addition to the performances. So he said, okay, we'll start making them tomorrow. So they were not really happy with making new puppets, but they thought that they had to, because their old puppets are starting to tear. And at that night, after Bhairav and Bhanu, they went to sleep, what happened? The clock struck midnight. It was 12 in the midnight. The wall at the far end suddenly came to life as little puppet shadows were projected onto it by the silvery light of the moon. So in moonlight, what happened? Shadows started moving on the wall. Why? The puppets came to life. So they were no longer toy puppets. They were talking now. So, my poor arm, groaned Veer, losing his balance and tripping over a sleeping horse puppet. The horse puppet awoke with a start. "Huh!" exhaled Dagdu. So the horse's name was Dagdu. "Ooh, I dreamt that my stomach was split open." "Dagdu, your stomach really is split open," Kalia said. "Don't you remember? That's why you were not able to perform today." So, the horse puppet was also part of the show, but since its stomach is split open, which means the puppet was torn in the stomach area. So that is why the horse puppet was not part of the performance today. "Oh," exclaimed Dagdu, "that explains why my stomach feels empty. I thought I was hungry. Silly me." So they were all talking now. They had come alive, right? And when they were all talking, just then they heard some muffled sobs. Somebody was crying. Sitting under the mat, her face buried in her hands, was Jumri. Why was she crying? So we rushed to her side. "What is it, Jumri? You know my heart breaks to see you shed even a single tear. Bhairav and Bhanu feel we are getting old and need to be replaced," she said. She was crying. So she said, "Bhairav and Bhanu, they think that we are getting too old and we need to be replaced." So even Veer and Kalia, so they stared at each other in horror. So Jumri told both Kalia and Veer that this is what Bhairav and Bhanu were discussing, and they were all really shocked to know that. The next morning, Bhairav and Bhanu, they got to work on the new puppets. And they cut and sewed all day long, singing songs and practicing moves. In a corner of the room, Jumri, Veer and Kalia, they lay still. So their faces were emotionless. They looked like they are just puppets. But their hearts were pounding with fear. So see, in the corner of the room, all these three puppets were there, and they were looking at Bhairav and Bhanu making new puppets. So obviously they couldn't move, they can't talk because they are puppets during the day, right? But they were watching all of it with a lot of fear. When night fell again, Jumri, Veer, Kalia and Dagdu, they sprang to life. So they came to life at midnight. They jumped off the mat and tiptoed into the adjoining room. So they secretly went to the next room. Wistfully, they stared at the table. And what was there? Well, lay a grand puppet in an orange dhoti, a beautiful female puppet, a fierce villain puppet in a silver mask, and a mighty horse puppet with a mane of silky brown hair. So there were 4 new puppets which were ready to replace all these old ones. They really did look striking. See? They went and looked at all the new puppets. So what did they do? Dugdoo sniffed at the horse puppet's mane. So Dugdoo is a horse, right? So it wanted to go and check out the new replacement which was going to replace him. So he went and he sniffed at the horse's mane. The puppet didn't respond. Dugdoo gave it a little tug. So it pulled. An irritation. To his surprise, a bunch of its hair came off in his hands. So when Dugdoo tried to pull that puppet, because it did not move, right? So these puppets, the new puppets are still puppets. So they don't have life. So when Dugdoo pulled, a little bit of hair came off with its hand. Hey, that's a good idea. Let's have some fun, said Kalia mischievously. So what did they plan? So they planned to ruin those new puppets. He went up to the silver masked puppet and turned its feet the other way around. So, the new puppet is there, the new villain puppet. And what did Kalia do? Like the feet, they were facing front, no? So he turned it so that the feet were facing the other way around now. Now he won't know if he's coming or going. He, snickered Kalia. And what did the other two do? Not to be outdone, Veer bent the elbows of his replacement so that its arms now stuck out in odd positions. So Veer, he went to his replacement, and what did he do? The puppet's elbows, the arms. So he turned it outside so that it was sticking out in odd positions. It didn't look good. And meanwhile, Jumri was busy gluing the female puppet's braids onto her face like a mustache. So all these, all the puppets, so they were going to their own replacement and they were doing all these naughty and mischievous things. The puppets stood back to admire their handiwork. How naughty they are, no? So they did all this and they also admired, wow, what have we done? So they admired their own mischief. So the next day, Bhairav and Bhanu awoke and they were excited because they had new puppets. So they wanted to show their audience, all their new puppets that they have made. So it was the day the new puppets would perform. Bhairav picked up his musical instruments and rushed out of the house. And Bhanu also grabbed the new puppets and she followed. So they went out and they were ready for the performance. So the stage was set. The crowd gathered in anticipation. So as usual, they were all excited to watch the puppet show. It was time. A harmonium played melodiously while Bhairav and Bhanu took their places backstage, puppet strings in hand. So they started playing the music and everybody, so they were waiting. It was a colorful stage and they were waiting for the puppet show to start. But on stage was a strange sight indeed. Why? Because the boy puppet was wobbling unsteadily. They had turned out his elbows and all that. They did all these things to the new puppets. So the boy puppet was wobbling unsteadily. After every 2 steps, he would suddenly fall flat on his face. Top. So he used to fall down. Meanwhile, the girl puppet, what happened? Simply frowned at the audience through her mustache. So see, Jumri had done this, right? She had glued the braids of the puppet as a mustache. Like a mustache. And obviously it wouldn't look good, for the female puppet to look like that. So the audience started booing. They're like, ooh, no, it's not nice. We don't like it. So they started booing. The horse puppet entered. Its mane uneven and shaggy. So the hair, the mane of the horse puppet was not looking nice because Dugdoo had pulled it, right? He had taken them away. Bits of the mane kept falling off. As he galloped, the horse gallops, right? So as he galloped, he left a trail of hair behind him. So wherever the horse puppet moved, everywhere little bit of hair was falling off. Bhairav and Bhanu, they stared in horror. as the audience they stood to leave. So they were not happy. They were like, oh, these ugly puppets, what is this? Nothing is nice. We don't want to watch this. So the audience, they stood up to leave. So Bhairav and Bhanu, they sat in silence behind the stage. Finally, Bhairav spoke. Our old puppets have always been lucky for us. We should never have tried to replace them. See? So Bhairav, obviously they don't know, right? Bhanu also agreed. Bhanu nodded in agreement. Yeah, we should never have done this, because they didn't know that these old naughty puppets, so they are the reason for all this happening today. So they felt, oh no, our old puppets were always lucky for us. So none of the performances have been like this. But these new puppets, the very first time, the audience did not like the show. So they have left in the middle of the show. So they decided from that day on, Bhairav and Bhanu decided that they would never try to replace the puppets again. Instead, Dagdu's stomach was mended, Veer's arm was fixed, Jhumri got a beautiful new outfit, and Kalia's mask was properly stitched. They looked as good as new. And their little nighttime adventure remained a secret forever. See? These new old puppets, so they look as good as new. And Bhairav and Bhanu, they never came to know what happened that night. It will always be a secret. Nice story, no children? You liked it? So next time I will come and meet you all with another wonderful story. Okay? Bye-bye.